got a lot of people in the podcast today, but the star of the show is Race Gutish. You were supposed to stay over there. But one of the best female riders in the world.
So anyways, my name's Rachel Gutish. I'm, like Shane said, a female professional racer. Went pro at 15. I'm 29 now, so had a fairly long pro career, done a lot of different stuff, which is one of the things I pride myself on. A lot of people tend to be sort of one-trick ponies, but you can find me on the podium at everything from a hard enduro to a GNCC to an enduro GP over in Europe to, the Saturday night local moto race, because I have this thing where if there's a race happening and I'm not at it, I feel like the universe is punishing me, which for better or worse. But anyway, I love to race. I love to be at the races. It's everything I've ever wanted out of life.
And when did you start riding?
So I started riding when I was 5 and racing when I was 7. There was a little bit of a gap there because my mom initially was like, I'm the oldest, I'm a girl. She wasn't totally sure she wanted her daughter doing the thing that her husband had repeatedly broken himself into a whole bunch of pieces doing, right? But he talked her into it, and then we say by accident, but I'm pretty sure my dad did this on purpose. I did not know children raced dirt bikes until I was 7, because by the time we'd get there for his adult race, the youth race was done and everybody had left. So he made sure to get there really early one morning so I could watch all the youth racing. I'm like, kids can do this? They let kids do this? I want to do this! And then my mom didn't have the heart to tell us no, and it just kind of snowballed from there, and now she's probably the biggest supporter I've got. Like, there's been times she has driven separately after a shift at work to a GNCC so she'd watch me show up and get 6th. Like, if that's not dedication, I don't know what is.
And what are some of your biggest achievements?
That's a hard one. I would probably say, just from the standpoint of being able to represent my country, this will be my 10th ISDE, so my 10th time I've gone over with Team USA. That 6 days has always been super important to me. Like, again, there's no feeling quite like being able to do America proud overseas. We have won the Women's World Trophy, I believe, 5 times, and 3 of those times I've been on the team for it, so that's pretty cool. And if we win this year, we will tie the Aussies for the most ever Women's World Trophy wins. So that's kind of that's been the big focus, main objective of my season. This year I ended up switching from Sherco to Riehu in kind of a sudden fashion. In fact, the U.S. importer of Sherco has since switched, so I'm glad things kind of ended when they did, because I'd be even deeper in a mess now if I'd tried to continue on with that situation. So, hey, Beamer.
That's a good transition, though. So you're riding a Riehu now.
Yes, so the Spanish call it Riehu.
Oh, Riehu.
Like yay, you were excited to be here. Riehu.
Glad we could set that to
yes.
rest.
Everybody wants to.
Yeah. So, it's going to be a question. So, do you feel like that's a competitive bike?
Oh, absolutely. Now, the one thing about Riehu, they do not make a 4-stroke. So if you're a 4-stroke person, I'm sorry, this is not the brand for you. They're also limited in the sense they don't make youth bikes, and I don't believe they have a 125 either. Luckily, I don't care about youth bikes or 125s, and I really like my 300 2-stroke, which one of the reasons I appreciate a 300 2-stroke is it's a lot like me. You can find them everywhere doing at least pretty okay at what they're doing. Now, like, GNCC would probably be the weakest link for a 2-stroke versus a 4-stroke, just because the way the courses all line up, everybody there is on a 4-stroke. The quads have just completely polished everything flat most of the time. So it's not like an ideal environment for them, but I can still, show up and not embarrass myself. And then at National Enduros, I've won several National Enduros this year on this bike already. So, yeah.
And have you had any major injuries in the sport?
I mean, I think for as long as I've been riding and racing, I've been either phenomenally lucky or maybe I just bounce really well. I'm not sure. Going in chronological order, I guess, broken hand, couple fingers, ACL, broken toes, PCL, MCL.
She's been really lucky.
Over 15 years, yes. Rib cage. My elbow is all sorts of messed up, but I'm going to have to circle back to that one. And then grade 3 separation of the AC joint in Argentina. So the elbow, I was racing the National Enduro in Daytona in I was still on a beta then, so probably 20, 21. I'm not good with dates. It all runs together after a while. And it wasn't even a bad crash. It was a second or third gear deal. I just landed badly, with my arm stuck out. And instead of the elbow hyperextending and tearing all the ligaments, the radial bone was cleaved into a bunch of pieces by the humerus, enough pieces that the surgeon said he cut open my elbow and it just kind of fell out, and there wasn't really enough left to put it back together. So they put in a metal piece. It kind of looked like a very small version of a doorknob to replace the large chunk of bone that now no longer existed. But unfortunately, the surgeon kind of messed up the surgery a little bit, put in too big of a piece, and then I was very limited in my range, couldn't move it, and then 3 years later, it had chewed a hole through my ulna and my humerus enough so that it fell out of the bone, and we had to have it removed. But hey, look, I've got full.
Okay.
You have a weak stomach? I didn't know that about you.
I'll take my MCL tear all the way home.
Anyway, but it's great now. I've got almost.
How old were you when that happened?
I already told you I'm bad at dates.
Roughly. I mean, you said you battled.
I was a factory rider with Beta by then. So, and how old are you when you graduate college? 24? No, 20,
mid to
20,
early 20s.
22. I was probably 22 or 23.
Yeah.
And then got it fixed again in 2022. Sat out half the season, but.
So that's actually something that I kind of wanted to bring up was what was your first factory deal? Or semi-factory.
I guess
women kind of get screwed on the whole factory deal.
Well, I mean, I wasn't going to say that. I mean, there are factory rides for women, and things are so much better here than they were 15 years ago.
Right.
Back when Mandy Maston was winning everything, she got a discount on parts and told to like it.
Well, I feel third row pro guys get better deals than the top 10 women in the world.
And if you think it's bad here, it's even worse in Europe. I thought Europe was going to be better, and then all of the women over there are amazed that any of us actually make money doing this. The reigning world champions over the last 5 years have all had jobs.
That's okay.
Not necessarily full-time.
Right.
Probably a thing kind of like what I do, which is, I've got a family friend of a friend who lets me come and work, blah, 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 or I've got this remote thing I'm kind of doing online, or I'm going to coach some riding schools. So I guess if we're considering factory ride to be made enough money that was all I did with my life, the only factory ride in that sense I've had was with Beta. Yeah. And to their credit, even though things there didn't work out for other reasons, they treated me as an equal to their male riders. And they are the only team I've ever been with that has really done that. Mm-hmm. With the possible exception of Riehu. It's just kind of an interesting situation with them because it came about so late. And I'm technically only a factory rider in Europe for 5 races, so but I would say but they're a small enough company that the men are getting a very similar deal to what I do, so I consider that fair and even up.
What other minor sponsors do you have?
Okay, so the big ones, there's a couple I want to talk about. Moose Racing has been with me since before Beta, which means they have stood by their woman through a lot of nonsense and difficulties. And there was a time where I would call my contact Carl and just be like, Carl, we got a problem. He's like, oh no, not again. He felt so bad for me. And he's like, I wish we could support you more. But, he's one of the few, and Moose is one of the few out there that have really done everything they could for me and really made an effort. So big shout out to them. Even when I'm done racing professionally, I'll never buy anything except Moose gear. Then Arai Helmets. They've been a longtime sponsor of mine, and the reason I wanted to ride for them is because they have also historically sponsored the entire ISDE effort. So if you wear an Arai helmet during the qualification process and agree to wear an Arai helmet for the remaining calendar year, they will send you a free 6 days helmet already painted, which is pretty cool. And I remember when I was 16 and I opened up the box for the first time and pulled out my 6 days helmet. And it was before we started getting the fancy trophy paint jobs, which fine, they're cool, but I'm a traditionalist. I like that old school skunk stripe helmet. And I remember pulling out that helmet and how cool it was. So Arai's another one, and they've, again, been very good to me. They treat me in a way I feel is completely reasonable. And then there's, again, a lot of these sponsors, though, you have to remember they're product sponsors. They don't have the ability to pay me. They just don't have the resources for that. But just to rattle off the list, XC Gear has been a good one. Actually, no, I'll just rattle off the whole podium list because, like I said earlier about the Pledge of Allegiance, if I stop halfway through, I don't.
Yeah, you can't start.
I've also, just to throw this out here, if people are giving you help and support, you should not have to read their names off a pit board. You should know who they are. So just going to call out 98% of the industry because the other thing I'm doing, my main sponsors are in Spain. Their English is medium at best. I can basically say anything I want now and not have to worry about it. So we'll say you should not read your sponsors off a pit board. So Rieju Spain, Rieju USA, Moose, Arai, 92, Wheelworks, XC Gear, HBDMotografix. Enduro Engineering, even though they're on this bike, I unfortunately had to give them up moving forward because Factory Rieju uses Polysport. And the way the contract works with them, I have to use it everywhere. So we shook hands and mutually agreed. But since Polysport still hasn't sent me anything here in the U.S., I'm going to continue running them until that changes.
It's a good product.
It's a very good product. And then I also kind of want to throw a shout out. They're not a sponsor per se, and I haven't worked with them for a terribly long time, but John Seahorn with SXS, he's a 6 days vet, and I know him to talk to. So we were hanging out at Silver Kings, and I was explaining my whole skid plate handguard drama, and he's like, how about I just send you two? He's like, you can run one at TKO, and if they let you run it at 6 days, great, and if they don't, cool. So gonna have that on the bike here pretty soon, probably. And yeah, so that'd be like the big ones.
So before we wrap this all up, one question, unless you have something to add.
Yeah, I guess I should talk about not companies, but like people who have chosen to help me out, like really done that over and out. They're a women's riding organization. They've sponsored me for a while. They give me coaching opportunities. Really, like their whole mission is more women should ride motorcycles, which I can totally get behind.
They should. They're awesome. Woo-hoo.
Thanks, Sammy. And then GSD Squared. He handles the logistics for our team container and has in the past sponsored the occasional underpaid deserving rider who needs a little help to get from here to there. So those are two other people I just kind of wanted to thank. And of course, my dad. They say that your parents are the best sponsor you're ever going to have, and that's true.
Well, you guys have a good relationship in a different sense. It's a very honest relationship. If you ever see them in the pits, they'll be the first people to yell at each other, and then 30 minutes later, it's like, yeah, so everything's fine, and it's like it acts like they didn't even happen.
Well, the problem is we're entirely too much alike.
Yes.
And we're both, like any family, you can almost think of it as a family business. There's always going to be stress and, well, I think we should do this. Well, no, I think we should do that. Blah, 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 blah. And
you're both very stubborn.
Very, very stubborn. But we also, even though we have a bit of a short fuse with each other, we don't stay mad for any length of time. So, like, there have been times where we have been, like, I don't want to say screaming, but that's probably pretty accurate. Screaming at each other driving down the road. And then loudly discussing, and then 30 minutes later, I'll see a notification on my phone, and he'll have sent me a meme on Instagram. I'm like, okay, I guess we're done being mad. Are we ready to try talking about that again? And it's gotten better as I've gotten older. We just learned to deal with it better. Like, he's learned that if we are currently having a problem, 5 minutes after the race is not the time to discuss how poorly this went. Give me, like, 20 minutes to just decompress, and then we're a lot better off. So... yeah, huge shout out to my dad, of course. Couldn't make this happen without him.
So what's the one question I had was, what's your training regimen like? Like with riding, working out, everything? Because, I mean, you're not just a racer, you're an athlete.
I didn't realize I was going to be giving a TED Talk this evening. I could sit here for the next 45 minutes and talk about that. How long of an answer do y'all want?
Wrap it up in at least 2 minutes.
Ooh, okay, I will do my best. So... the thing you have to remember about physical training, especially off the bike, is you are training to do a specific thing. There's a wide variety of disciplines on a bike, so what you're doing needs to replicate what you are doing on the motorcycle. For example, the way I train leading into the endurocross season, which is 5 minutes on the bike where you feel like you're going to throw up and die all at the same time, has to be really, really different than a 2-hour GNCC or 6-hour-long 6 days or an Enduro GP. Like, you really have to focus on what you're doing and why. So, like, leading into 6 days, I'll do a lot more longer road cycles. I'll do things like that. Enduro cross is all high-intensity training. But as a general rule, barring other considerations like having to go work or, well, I can't ride today because my bike is not right. Like, you know, in a perfect world, it's a thing where I would, well, you also want to prioritize time on the bike. You don't ever want your gym training to get in the way of your ability to ride the bike at full speed, because then you've sort of defeated the whole purpose of what we're doing, and there's no fitness that replicates bike fitness. But with that being said, I heavily prioritize weight training off the bike simply because I am small, and the bike is big, and I need to be strong enough to make it do what I want, which is another thing I like about the two-stroke. I spent many years trying to be larger than what I think my body can actually support. Like, I would lift weights, I would lift so many weights, I would eat so much food, and I would still look like this. It was so annoying. So I gave up on that and decided to just ride a smaller bike, and that strategy's worked out pretty well for me, I think. But still do a lot of strength training. Cardio-wise, again, it depends on what I'm leading into, but like for a general all-around, it's like I'd do one day of long zone 2, like 2-3 hours, and then another day of like some kind of hit cardio, be it 1 minute intervals on a rower, or like something more. Like, a trainer of mine put me onto the Insanity DVDs like 8 years ago, and you feel so stupid when you do them.
P90X.
You know what? And you laugh, but I can pull out my laptop and pull out my yoga mat, and anywhere in the world I can do that.
Yeah.
You know, one thing you didn't ask about that I'm kind of surprised you didn't is what I'm doing this season.
Well, we already know that you're doing ISDE this year, and you've actually been killing it at the NEPGs. But what else? What do you want to tell us? Because you're excited about it.
Well, I'd like to talk about Enduro GP. Like,
Yeah.
that's the thing I'm technically the factory rider for. The thing I like about Enduro GP the most is it plays to my skill set in the sense you have to be able to do everything. It is the ultimate jack of all trades race. So you've got a Friday night prologue, which is an enduro cross track, and this is a timed test, mind you. So if I put 15 seconds on the competition in the enduro cross track, which I've occasionally been known to do, that's a 15-second lead I get to carry into Saturday. So you do the super test under the lights at night. It's really cool. And then the next day, you're on the bike for 8 hours, so you have to have quite a bit of endurance just to cope with that. And then for tests, you've got a cross test and an enduro test, like at 6 days. So your cross test can be a moto track or a high-speed grass track, just, you know, pin it to win it style. And then the enduro test is normally a little tighter, more not quite as tight as our NEPGs here, but like flowier, more single trackish. And then there's an extreme test, which is like a little tiny chunk of TKO got transported to somewhere. And yeah, so since you're having to be a hard enduro rider, an enduro cross rider, potentially a moto rider, even though that's never really been super my thing, and a general all-around enduro rider, and you have to be able to sprint as hard as you can for 3 to 7 minutes at a time while also being able to ride a motorcycle for 8 hours and still remember your name when you're done. Yeah, so I really think Enduro GP is probably the ultimate form of racing that exists for what we do. And I wish either we could get around in the States or more people in the U.S. would kind of develop an appreciation for it. Now, Sprint Enduro, U.S. Sprint Enduro has kind of tried to replicate that, but due to, you know, land use and the fact it's 2 people, one of whom is sometimes me, out there stringing ribbon trying to make the thing happen, it would be very difficult to do like an 8-hour day with transfer, especially since you've got C riders, and also because that's the other thing about Enduro GP. If you're not a professional or a upper level amateur, they do not want you there. This is not designed for you. They don't dumb down the course so everybody can get around it. It's like, no, either you're going to make it up this wall slab or you're not, and we don't really care. Like, so yeah, there's just not really a lot of knowledge about it in the U.S., nor is there really a venue to do it. But for me, when I got to my first race in Portugal last year, I'm like, oh, this is what I was supposed to be doing the whole time. I was just born on the wrong continent. Okay, it all makes sense.
How many rounds do you have left this year?
So we've actually only had one round because the women run a bit of a shortened schedule, which is another interesting thing. So for the women and some of the support classes, so not your male pro classes, but like your like vet class or your juniors class, we don't always do every single round. It's kind of like how in GNCC they might give you drop rounds, but instead of just saying, okay, well, you can drop your 3 lowest scores, they say, only show up to these 4 races. Because then it kind of, like I said, the women don't get a lot of support over there, so trying for them to run 8 rounds would be financially difficult and would probably hinder participation quite a bit. So they just pick 4 rounds and say, everybody shows up to these 4 and races each other. Because if they gave us drops, it could be a case where we only have half the field here, and where's the fun in that? So 4 rounds this year. First round was Portugal, 2-2 for that on me, which I was happy with. I'd been on the new bike for like a week beforehand, so we'll take it. And then I head over here in about 3 weeks for round 2 in Wales for us, and then right after 6 days, 7 days after I get home, I turn right around and go to Portugal again for round 3, and then the finale is in Germany. So
Fingers crossed. Hopefully you got this.
first American to ever win it. It's been my dream.
You got this. We believe in you.
Well, thank you.
Well, hey, we really appreciate you coming on. Good luck with the ISD this year. I know the team's kind of a little bit damaged right now, but
You know, I respect Brandy so much. She's basically superhuman as far as I'm concerned, and if anybody can come back from an injury like that and come back strong and lead us to a win, Brandy's the one. Like, I have no doubts about her ability to do this. And for the rest of our parts, I think Corey and I are also pretty good at dirt bikes, so we should be all right.
you'll put them in the backpack. I know you will. Well, cool. We'll wrap it up. We appreciate you guys. Check us out for more. We're going to meet more people, and we'll have a review on the bike as well. It's not about me today. So we have Rachel Gutish. In my own little world, perspective is reality. So we have Rachel Gutish, one of the best female riders in the world. I think she's the best.
How am I supposed to edit that?
Yeah, right.
I should start over.
The bird.
The bird. Look at the...
Sicker.